Hello and welcome to Follow Everton. It is midday and it's the transfer update on deadline day. Let's remove the starting shortly banner um, and crack on. Plenty of business happening across the Premier League. I don't know how much of it is rumours, the likes of the Sandro Tonali link to Arsenal from Newcastle. For me, I feel like this is the sort of thing that just gets made up to try and get clicks, to try and get people to go and watch Sky Sports and to read BBC articles. I'm not sure how much truth is in those sorts of stuff, but there certainly seems to be some deals happening. I mean, I think the ones to watch for Everton, there were three players at the start of the season of the transfer window that Everton fans felt could move on. And one of them, of course, was Beto, the 28-year-old striker who we signed for near 30 million from Udinese. And we were linked with El Nesri, the Fenerbahce striker who was at the African Cup of Nations with Morocco for many weeks. I'd say most of the month of January, and the talk was that we were going to try and get El Nesri and that Beto was going to go either in that direction or somewhere else. But Beto seems to be staying for now. And I'd be very surprised if Beto leaves Everton in on deadline day, especially having scored that equaliser at Brighton. And I kind of agree with that. Unless you're bringing in a ready-made sort of Premier League ready replacement, I don't see the advantage of selling Beto at this moment because he has proven he can score goals like this sort of time last season. So it wouldn't make sense for me to move him on unless there is someone outstanding really to be brought in, or unless the offer was a phenomenal offer. And I just don't feel that that's likely to happen. The other player who's been linked with a move away, someone who we felt was going to move on or should have moved on potentially in the summer, was Nathan Patterson. He was close to joining Sevilla on loan. I think then Nathan got an injury and was forced to stay at Everton. I think he had a really bad preseason. I remember him up against the likes of Semenyo at Bournemouth on that preseason tour. And I remember thinking he was just way out of his depth and we needed to move him on. But that deal broke down. He was linked with Sevilla. Julian Sanchez, their right back slash right winger, was linked to coming in the other direction. That was a deal that never materialised. And so Nathan Patterson recovered from injury, was struggling to get through into the team, but then he played in the away win at Bournemouth, kept the clean sheet. And there was another one in there as well. I think he did really well, at least two or three appearances where he's impressed in a defence. So Patterson kind of has found his way back in. And then all of a sudden against in the last match against Brighton, found himself on the bench. Moyes went with the four giant centre backs to try and nullify Brighton and hope to nick something. I mean, they are good at home, 5 wins, 5 draws, and just the one defeat. So I kind of understood, but um, unless we're going to be more positive, I don't think Nathan Patterson can be involved. I think if he's going to go with this negative approach in some of these big games, like Chelsea at home, Liverpool at home, City as well, all to come to Bramley Moore, then what realistically, when is Patterson going to play? So he's been linked now with another move, a deadline day move to Genoa. Now, this is an interesting one because Genoa have also got their right back, Norton Cuffy, former Arsenal player, now playing in Italy. He's an England under 21 international, a bit like the other Everton potential signing today will come to him. So Norton Cuffy looks like a physical, strong right back who can link and get involved in the attack. And that's exactly something Everton have wanted to bring in. David Moyes admitting he'd been looking to sign a right back for over 12 months. And that Pato has done okay. Doesn't want to give too much away, does he, David Moyes? So Norton Cuffy, potentially a player who could come in the other direction. He's a player that Everton have been linked with all the window, linked with Juventus, linked with Inter Milan. Now, Cuffy won't be going to Juventus because Juventus have signed another potential Everton target in Elm Holm. I think he's a Danish or a Swedish international right back. These are players that we've been linked with, they must be good enough if they're going to, if they're being linked with those sorts of clubs. So, can we get a deal where we can send Nathan Patterson to Italy and bring in Norton Cuffy? Personally, I'd like both to stay, both to be at Everton. I think you need to have a competition for places. I don't think Jake O'Brien is a right back, and so this is just a situation. In terms of a right back, what profile do you want? You want someone who can defend 1v1. You want someone who can link and get forward and overlap and get crosses in, and you want someone who is quite tenacious, willing to put his foot in, quite aggressive. So that's the profile you need. Um, I don't know how we're not able to find a right back. It's not the most expensive position in the team, and yet we still can't find one. But look, let's see if we can get Norton Cuffy in, or if someone else as a right back, and then that would allow Nathan Patterson potentially to move on with our well wishes, I suppose. Um, so that moves on to Norton Cuffy's teammate. This one is happening. This is Tyrick George, another Thai playing for the England under-21 team. Of course, we've got the other one, um, Tyler Dibbling. So close enough. Tyrick George, left winger, coming in to replace Jack Grealish, who's potentially out for the season. He's a different player. He's got blistering pace. He is two-footed as well. He's very direct. He's only 19 though, so I don't think we can expect massive things. But there is going to be a buy option in this, and I think it's good to see Everton bringing in the next generation of young talent. Now, I would say how many of the under-21 England teams statistically always go on to play for the national team, the senior team. I'm not 100% sure on the numbers, but I think this is a player Chelsea rate highly, and he was going to join Fulham in the summer for 22 million. So I would imagine the buy option is going to be around the 20 million mark. So that's an exciting player. He isn't a small winger. He's quite a tall winger, two-footed with pace. And I think you need lots of different options when it comes to wide players. You can't just be left with Dwight McNeil, who's really struggling at Everton this season, and Tyler Dibbling, who, let's be honest, 45 million. Who signed Tyler Dibbling for 45 million when there were more pressing, urgent needs? And that is a lot of money. You would be shocked if you think you couldn't get someone ready to come in and make things happen at this level. But we brought in Tyler Dibbling, and I know he's got a big future ahead of him, but you need players who are ready to make an impact. And David Moyes clearly doesn't think he's ready. And that would just leave us with Ilian Jai, who hasn't played that well in these two appearances since back. So, we're putting a lot of pressure on Njai to create stuff in Dewsbury Hall. We're only one injury, Dewsbury Hall or Njai, away from crisis in terms of creativity, especially when your fullbacks offer so little going forward. So moving on, we also talked about, another player Everton have been linked with very heavily was Harry Wilson, or sort of the Twitter in the nose saying Harry Wilson, Fulham right midfielder, also a former Liverpool player from Wrexham, wants to come back up north apparently to settle down, one last big contract closer to home. I think Everton makes sense for him. We need someone with more experience who can play off the right. He is a left-footed player, scores some terrific goals and gets assists. He's having the season of his life, 8 goals, 6 assists, I believe. So, what a signing he would be. But Fulham have rebuffed our initial approach. I think it's time to put some serious money on the table because he's going on a free at the end of the season, and get someone in, get him in, get him through the door, and go a long way to replacing Jack Grealish. And it's something we've just got to simply try and do. Jack Grealish, we can claim on the insurance for his wages and put the money towards Harry Wilson. We get him on the free at the end of the season, but I think competition's going to be there. I believe the player wants to come to Everton, so try and get the deal done. I remember Fulham signing Iwobi in an inflated market for 22 million with 1 year left on his deal. I'd probably say Harry Wilson, 10 million would do it. But Everton are probably thinking, is this economical sense? Well, I think it is. Look, we're right in the mix for Europe. I don't think top 4 is realistic at all. I don't think top 5 even. I think 6th or 7th, potentially 7th, Europa Conference League is where we're at with it. Because of the teams that are now pulling away, where Everton have shown a lack of consistency with these draws against Brighton, against Wolves, losing at Brentford. So poor results. We've had some poor results, and yeah, we've scattered a couple of decent away wins in there. But we need to do better, and I think we're not going to get better unless we can add into the market, because I think we are lacking a little bit of creativity and goal threat, especially now Jack Grealish is out. So we've talked about Wilson, talked about Norton Cuffy, talked about Patterson potentially going. I don't think Beto will go. One final player, sorry, well, 2. Of the 3 that I mentioned at the start of the video, Dwight McNeil was another who I felt could leave this window depending on the replacements. He is a different type of player, but I think the lack of pace and the sort of the one-dimensional approach he has on the right doesn't suit him. And just his predictability makes him quite an easy player to defend against when he's playing on the left. So it'd be someone I'd be looking to move on in an ideal world. While his stock was high, I think that should have been in the summer. We clearly couldn't replace him, maybe. But, he's someone, I don't think he's got a future long term. I thought he was terrible in the home draw, or was it, we play at home? We salvaged a point. Um, Team we should have beaten. It was only literally last week. I've forgotten it already. But we haven't seen enough from him, and we're not seeing enough from him, and so that's a player that I could see leaving, if depending on who we bring in today, even still. But really, you kind of want to look at that as a summer, just because you can't really go through a season with 3 or 4 wide players. Um, who else? Tim Irabunen's been linked again with a move away. Lazio interested in him. He's got a 6 months on his contract, or 18 months on his contract with the extra year. He's a young player. I personally wouldn't part with him. I think Harrison Armstrong and Tim Irabunen and Garner Gay, you need 4, and Merlin Roll. You need 4 or 5 midfielders. What we don't really have is an out and out defensive midfielder who can just sit in there. And maybe another number. We got Charlie Alcaraz, so we're probably quite well stocked in that. Although he hasn't scored or assist this season, we're probably quite well stocked for midfielders. We're just looking really light on the wings, and at fullback. So let's see what happens. I'm confident we'll get at least 1 in, potentially 2 players today. So we'll see what happens. I think we've got to try and capitalise on how close we are to doing something. And Friedkin's put the money in the pocket. All right, Blues. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, and I'll be back with an update shortly. Thank you.